Hi, and welcome to the demo for Tier 1 Safe Tool. You can log in on your web browser at safe.tier1performance.com. That's safe.tier1performance.com. When you get to the login screen, you'll be asked to enter in your Tier 1 email, and your password will automatically be the word password in all lowercase. So your password is password. Once you get that, go ahead and log in. And what you'll see is a list of projects that you are assigned to. You will also always have a test project, and this will allow you to get in the playground, play, add findings, really make sure you're comfortable with the tool before you get on site. So if you want to enter in the test project, just click the View button. And what you'll see is that folks have already been in and have started to enter in findings as they've started preparing for their upcoming engagement. So right now we are on the Findings tab. We'll notice that by each column there is a filter. This allows us to filter by chapter, by standard, by element of performance, by date, also by heat map placement, so we could filter, for instance, to all the high and limited ones or all the low and widespread. You can also filter by your name. So if you choose your name, you can go down and filter and only see your findings. And then you can also filter by location. So that lets you really be able to drill down, because if you're looking for a specific finding in the IC chapter that you put for the ED, you want to make sure you use these filter buttons to drill down so that you can review that finding at any time by pressing on the edit button. The next thing you'll need to practice is how to create a finding. So if you will click on the blue button to create the finding, you'll notice again you have several drop-down features. You can sort by chapter. You can sort by standard. And then once you sort by chapter and standard, all the elements of performance will appear. And that way, if you don't remember which element of performance you're looking for, you could be able to quickly read and pick the best one that matches your particular observation. So for this observation, we're going to pick element of performance number 2. When we get to this element of performance and we open it up, the first thing it asks you is for heat map placement. So we can choose our severity and we can choose our scope. Know that the program has logic built into it. So if you score it and another person scores it, then it will automatically move into a pattern. If you score it and 3 other people score it, it will automatically move it into a widespread. Note that you can also move it into a widespread yourself if you saw it on multiple units. The severity works the same way. If one person scores it as high and another person scores it as low, it will automatically roll up to the highest level of severity. The other thing we need to talk about is if you score immediate threat to health and safety. So if you do score this, we ask that you put the scope at a pattern state, and that just allows the formatting to work inside the heat map itself. So if you score ITHS, please put it in a pattern scope. So for this demonstration purposes, let's make it high and limited. You also know that the crosswalk has been built in. So if you drop the cursor down, you will see that these are all of the CMS tags and COPs that crosswalk to this particular element of performance. You'll also note that there are C's behind some of them. The capital C behind that tag indicates that it's a condition level deficiency. Don't worry, the C won't be seen to the client, but it's a way to help the consultant know, oh, this one's the condition level, and this is the standard version of that same one. So for this purposes, we are going to do it as conditional under 0940, which is surgical services. Then we'll type in our location. I always try to tell people to mimic the location of how it is written on the agenda. The agenda is your source of truth with how the organization names that particular unit. So try to align those closely. And then we won't get a lot of discrepancies and variations in how the different consultants are naming things. Notice that these are free text boxes. You can free text your observation and free text your recommendation. Remember that we write in complete sentences and in past tense. But another helpful thing that we've created is what we call our Common Observations and Recommendations tab. So on some of the standards and EPs, you'll see this gray box appear. If you do, don't overlook it, because it means that there are common observations and recommendations pre-built into the system that you could potentially use. So if we click on that, you will see a catalog of everything that falls in to that standard and EP that has been scored on previous reports. So if we said that in the ED, instruments were not being pre-cleaned at the site of point of use, and then our recommendation was to pre-clean instruments at the point of use, we could select that. It will automatically populate into our observation and recommendation, but then we can also free text more specific things for that hospital, such as what their policy says to do, and make more robust recommendations than what we have here. So just know that you can use your common observations and recommendations as a starting point, and if you need to add anything to them, you certainly can. One of the other helpful hints is to download the software Grammarly. That is Grammarly. It's a free software, and what it will do, it will not only do spell check, but it will also check for sentence structure. So if you go and spell something incorrectly, it will underline it for you and allow you to choose the correct thing. So it's a very helpful download that's free to use. The next thing we need to talk about is what the status means. So right now our status is automatically in draft. When we are finished typing our observation and recommendation and we're ready for someone else to review our work, then we will switch this down to ready. That alerts our teammates that we're finished with that, and we are going to team check each other, and we're going to make sure that it is scored in the correct standard and element of performance, and that our observation and recommendations are clear and robust enough to give the client at the final deliverable. The other ones that are down here are reviewed. So once, as your teammate, I have reviewed your work, I will change it to reviewed. If I ever need to ask you about something, I will flag it. And what flag means is that I need to have a conversation with you. Maybe I just didn't quite understand your observation. Maybe I think it should be scored in element of performance 3 instead of 2. We just need to have a conversation about it. So those are the different statuses. And the goal each night is for you to change all of your draft observations into ready, so that other folks can start reviewing, because we make sure that we have all of our findings in and documented by 9 p.m. that night, so that we can give the client as close to as possible an on-site deliverable. That is the goal. Notice down here on the bottom, we can discard and exit if we really don't want to keep this finding. We can save and close, and that will take us back out to the home screen. Or we can save and new, and that will allow us to immediately start entering another finding. So at this point in time, I'm going to save and close. And notice it put my finding up here at the top that I just entered in. If it ever doesn't display for some reason, know that there is a refresh button here, so you can refresh that, and then all of your findings should populate into this running list. So again, this list can become very busy over time, especially more days that you're on site and more people that are on your team. So what I always do first thing in the morning is I always filter to my name, and then I'll look at the status of all my findings. I say one is flagged. I need to probably talk to the team lead about that when there's an opportunity. Or I need to check my email because 9 times out of 10, they've already emailed me about it. I know that this one was reviewed, so that looks great, so I'm feeling confident. And then I still see that I have 3 in draft, and I need to switch them over to ready. So I'm going to get in there and edit those, read over them one more time to make sure that they look good, and then I'm going to change it to ready for my team lead, and then save and close. So again, just get into the habit of checking, drilling down to your name. The other thing that I found very helpful, if you go into create a finding and you really just do not know where to score it. Maybe it's something and you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure if this falls into the environment of care chapter, or maybe it's a life safety issue, because I always get those sometimes a little bit confused. So if that happens to you, there is a search feature in here that you will be able to search for keywords to pull up which finding is best. So let's take fire extinguisher, for instance. So if I type in those keywords and hit search, it is going to automatically pull in every standard and element of performance that has to do with fire extinguishers. And then I can read and choose which one matches mine more closely. So what I noticed is that there was not a fire extinguisher in the kitchen within 30 feet of those grease producing ranges. So I can see right now that I was in LS 020135 EP11. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to add my heat map placement. See if it crosswalks to anything. Notice that it did not crosswalk to anything, so that's okay. Type in my location. And then I can type my observation and my recommendation. So easy as that. Now notice when I went to go push save and I had not typed in my observation and recommendation, it reminded me. And it will do the same thing for any of these boxes. So if you don't put a heat map placement in, if you forget to put your location, your observation, or your recommendation, then it's going to alert you and not allow you to save it. So my observation was there was no evidence that a K extinguisher was within 30 feet of the grill. And then I can type in my recommendation. And I'm sure my life safety folks are going, Tuffy, you can add a lot more to that, but we'll leave it like that for right now. And then again, once I'm finished with it, I'm going to change it over to our ready mode and then save and close. Now let's say that our life safety folks come back and they say, hey, we have a K extinguisher. We just didn't see it when we were looking. So you can go back in there and edit it once you go look and see that they do have a K extinguisher within 30 feet of the grill, and you can delete it if they bring you clarifying remarks about that. So just know that that is an option too for you to delete it, or there's an option for you to go in there and add the recommendation. Maybe it was fixed during the mock survey process. You might want to add that in there. So just know you can get back in there and look at that. The next button we need to talk about is the See Findings button here at the top. So this is our area that allows us to make consultative remarks. So maybe it's just not quite a finding and we don't want to score it and put it on the report, but we still want them to kind of talk about it after we leave and decide what direction they want to move in with a particular topic. So this allows us to free text, and we always do it in bullet points, and just free text whatever we want to tell them consultatively so it doesn't go off their radar. So just know that that is a feature in there as well. And after you finish typing in your consultative finding, you would push the Save button, and then that will update. The other button that's across the top is our heat map. Notice within seconds, it'll generate that heat map for us. It's a great way to check and make sure your items have shifted over appropriately during the mock survey process. And it's also a great conversation piece. So if you're going into, let's say, the infection prevention tabletop session and you want to show them how all these IC findings have started bubbling up or moving over into more of a patterned or widespread state, you can easily use this to have that type of conversation with your client. So it's a great tool to get them to focus on what's our highest priority and what is widespread throughout the organization. The other button at the top is Export. Now you can export this into an Excel document or a PDF. The PDF is the document that we give the client as the final version. So I always look at the Excel finding. And the reason I like to sometimes download the Excel findings is because it allows me at a quick glance to kind of see, hey, what is everyone seeing out there? You know, what are some hot topics, especially if I'm a team lead, I'm going to go in here and go, what's bubbling up to our red, in case they ask me about something during the closing conference. So this is just a great place to go and look at the survey as a whole. It's also a great place to kind of check to make sure, hey, did I score that? Did I remember to score the main fire panel? Then I can open up this Excel document, either do a quick word search or scroll down through the particular standards or chapters to make sure that I did in fact document it. The other thing I'll do sometimes is I will click on this first line and go to filter, and I can filter by location. So let's say I'm having a conversation with the ED director. I can unselect everything and then select everything that has to do with the ED. And then when I'm having the conversation with the ED director, I'm able to bring up just the observations that are in the ED and answer any questions that they might have about some of the observations that either myself or another consultant had. So again, Excel document, it generates pretty quickly and allows you to read the whole survey at a glance. And really drill down to what you need to. So this is the demo of the SAFE tool. I hope you're going to find it easy, helpful when it comes to entering in your findings and keeping a tab on what's going on during the survey process. Once you have finished everything and need to get it back out to your main list to see all the projects that you are assigned to, you can just click the Tier 1 Healthcare button and that will take you back to the home screen. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and as always, get in there and play with that test project. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. Thank you.